God and nature first made us what we are, and then out of our own created genius, we make ourselves what we want to be. Follow always that great law. Let the sky and God be our limit and eternity our measurement. From slavery to emancipation and on to independence. Join us as we honor Jamaica's first national hero. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. Stay tuned.
Hurricanes can strike at any time. In the event of one, be prepared to act quickly. If a hurricane watch or warning has been issued, review your home disaster response plan. Map out likely routes to evacuate if your home is at risk and confirm with relatives or friends you plan to stay with. Also, confirm the location of the nearest shelter. Check your emergency supplies and restock if necessary. Remember, disasters do happen, so be prepared.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, August 3, 2021. Jamaica is expecting to welcome 4.2 million visitors and generate approximately $4 billion in tourism earnings by 2024. Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett says these projections are based on the growth trends since the island's borders were reopened to international travel in June 2020 after being closed due to the pandemic.
It is going to be a slow and arduous process, but we are already seeing very positive signs, and I'm confident that by 2023, we will once again be seeing significant gains. We have welcomed over 837,000 stopover visitors, with arrivals increasing at an average of 20% each month since reopening.
Minister Bartlett was addressing a meeting with representatives of the Caribbean Alternative Investment Association recently. The meeting was held to discuss the creation of an enabling environment to foster investments, leading to the growth of small and medium-sized tourism enterprises. Over 25,000 persons 18 years and older have been vaccinated just 3 days into the 7-day island-wide vaccination blitz. This is possible due to the delivery of 300,000 doses of vaccine from the UK last Wednesday. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the vaccine provides a ray of hope for faster recovery and a return to normalcy as soon as possible. He made an appeal for all eligible Jamaicans to take the vaccine.
With this number of vaccines, we could easily double the number of persons who are fully vaccinated, and we could do so rapidly. However, it will take the acceptance of every single Jamaican to come on board and get vaccinated. The vaccines will save your lives, and it will allow us to return to normal and reopen our economy.
The shipment is the UK's first to any country globally under a commitment given by Prime Minister Boris Johnson during a group of 7 G7 nations meeting in June.
On behalf of the government of Jamaica and the people of Jamaica, I want to express our gratitude to the government of the United Kingdom and the people of the United Kingdom for this gift, which is a symbol of our strong relationship. I also want to specially acknowledge the work of High Commissioner Ahmad in ensuring that this gift of vaccine materialize at the time that it has.
The vaccination blitz, which started on Saturday, will run until Thursday. During this time, individuals may make appointments for their first or second dose by contacting the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health and Wellness last week received essential medical equipment and supplies valued at over $32 million. The equipment, which will support the country's fight against COVID-19, was donated via a virtual ceremony by the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It comprises 150,000 sterile and non-sterile surgical gowns, 188,000 medical masks, 1.6 million surgical masks, 9,500 nitrile gloves, and 23 ventilators. Ambassador of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to Jamaica, His Excellency Faisal Falah Al-Arbi, says the bright side to the pandemic has been the cooperation and solidarity countries have shown amongst themselves. The National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, NATFATIP, says the reintegration of victims of human trafficking into society is a crucial aspect of its mandate. Manager of the Trafficking in Persons Secretariat, Shani Russell Robinson, says due to the psychological impact of the ordeal on victims, the task force sees it as a priority to provide support for this vulnerable group.
After you've come out of a life of trafficking in persons, you are devastated, you are traumatized, and you will need the assistance of persons as well as your family members and government and other stakeholders to assist you in getting back to a normal life.
Mrs. Russell Robinson was speaking at a recent JIS think tank. She says systems in place to offer assistance include a government-operated shelter for victims of trafficking, a reintegration program, assistance with educational expenses and job opportunities, as well as training and other extracurricular skills. There is also assistance with immigration documents such as passport and/or other forms of IDs if the victim is a non-national. This is in addition to psychosocial counseling by the Victim Services Division of the Ministry of Justice and the Child Protection and Family Services Agency. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has called on Jamaicans to shun what he terms the disease of violence. In his Emancipation Day message, Mr. Holness said government was already tackling the challenge through a comprehensive reform of its policy framework and response. Mr. Holness adds that the state has also passed the Sexual Harassment Bill, while Domestic Violence Bill is being reviewed.
We must all make a concerted effort to reject violence in our daily lives. Your government is seized of this disease of violence plaguing our people. It is of epidemic proportions, and it has infected all facets of our society. The first step in combating this disease is to get the average person to accept that violence in all its forms, whether intimate partner, domestic, corporal punishment, gang violence, or security force violence, all violence is wrong.
For his part, Leader of the Opposition Mark Golding used his Emancipation Day message to reiterate the call for reparations.
It is a fact that no form of compensation was paid to those who were enslaved, either for the unpaid extraction of their labor or their life in bondage that they endured. The profound negative effects of that period continue to be endured to this day, and the growing calls for reparations remain unyielding but have not yet been answered.
And finally, the JCDC 2021 cultural competitions ended with Miss Manchester's Dominic Reed being crowned Miss Jamaica Festival Queen 2021 and Erica Lumsden walking away the winner of the new Gospel Star competition. The Festival Queen show, which was live streamed because of the pandemic, saw 13 women vying for the coveted crown. The Gospel Star competition had its grand finale on Sunday. Culture and Entertainment Minister Olivia Grange says it is an extension of the usual gospel song competition.
The idea of introducing the Gospel Star this year in the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission planning for independence celebration, we're now moving away from the gospel song competition to the Gospel Star. In fact, what we're looking for is that outstanding talent that ministers in gospel.
The JCDC closes off its series of events this week with televised and live-streamed independence celebrations under the theme, Jamaica 59, Come Make We Celebrate Online. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Do you own land and need a title? Well, the National Land Agency NLA can help. Through the systematic land registration process, the NLA will assist residents to get titles in declared project areas across Jamaica. Systematic land registration is the methodical and orderly registration of parcels of land in a designated area known as systematic adjudication area. For further information on the systematic land registration process, including declared systematic adjudication areas, who can apply and the benefits, visit the National Land Agency's website at www.nla.gov.jm or email asknla@nla.gov.jm. The National Land Agency, one agency, one goal.
Now is the time to build house. Now is the time to buy house. Now is the time to make that critical investment in your life.
If you're thinking of answering the Prime Minister's call, look no further than the National Housing Trust, NHT.
The NHT is following the mandate that they have been given, which is build house, build house, build house, and don't stop build house.
That's right. Since 1976, the National Housing Trust has been providing affordable housing solutions to Jamaicans. Established through an amendment to the National Insurance Act of 1976, the trust was formed by way of partnership between the government and public sector workers. The aim? To increase the housing stock available while providing financial assistance to the neediest contributors. Persons are able to build, buy, or repair their homes through the NHT by making contributions. That is, funds are deducted from one's pay in this revolving loan scheme.
Since 1976, we are proud to say that we've housed well over 200,000 Jamaicans and provided well over 100 housing schemes across Jamaica.
Persons may realize their homeownership dreams with the NHT by two main avenues. First, the trust develops housing units or serviced lots. Currently, there are over 40 such projects underway across the island. The NHT also provides mortgage financing for Jamaicans seeking to build or buy houses, purchase land, or make repairs on existing homes.
While we're not a regulator, we have different partnerships between developers, between contractors, between financiers in the market as well to see how best we can improve the overall aesthetics and the overall housing product, whether it be public or even private as well.
As a result, contributors can combine funds received from the NHT with that of private financiers. And the trust has also entered into agreements with developers to give even greater access to home ownership. In addition to partnering on the construction of houses, NHT makes lands available for developers to build houses.
One of our newer programs that we are particularly proud of is our Guaranteed Purchase Program, GPP for short, where we actually liaise with developers who have projects themselves that they have built and have brought out of the ground or they are about to do construction on. And what the NHT does in those instances is the NHT buys the units from the developers and make them available to our contributors. And we think it's a good one because it's a win-win-win situation because the developers win, they are good at building. And so they're able to do it at a faster pace, but they are not good at selling. They're not marketers. And the NHT, as you know, has a ready market, so the NHT can take those from the developers. The mortgagors win because they get these units at NHT's preferential interest rates as opposed to buying them on the open market. And the NHT wins because we get the actual units that we know our contributors want.
If you're thinking of realizing your homeownership dream with the NHT, think on these things.
Once you're a contributor, the NHT will assist you. So we always say start with the NHT, but really and truly it involves research. And we find that persons sometimes jump into the housing business and then they get frustrated after a couple weeks or a couple months because they're not quite prepared as to what to expect. So we say come in, sit down, have a conversation with us, see what the loan products are, see what the interest rates are, see what your general mortgage options are. You may want to buy, but in that discussion you realize that you have some piece of land that has been passing through your family and there's a title for it. You probably want to build instead because that could turn out much cheaper than actually having to buy. So start with that conversation with the NHT, and our officers, they are always well equipped to guide you through the process. As you go through the process, there are different requirements, whether you're building or you're buying that you will have to satisfy. But generally, we want to know that you're able to afford a mortgage. So we will look at your affordability, which is a big part of it. So look at how much you earn, look at what interest rate that goes along with that income, with as low as 0%. So you want to ensure that you tap into what benefits you can get from the NHT. And then we have partnerships with other mortgage institutions. So if you want beyond the NHT's limit of 6.5 million, we have a one-stop shop where you can just partner with any of the other institutions, and we facilitate that process for you as well. So do the research, see where you are, see what the options are, and just come in, have a conversation with the NHT, have a conversation with your realtor, have a conversation with your mortgage provider, and just stick to the process. It generally takes about 90 days. So manage those expectations and ensure that you hire competent professionals to guide you through each step of the process, whether you're building, whether you're buying a house or you're buying land. Ensure you hire, can't stress that enough, qualified, competent individuals to guide you.
If you're in the market for a place to call home, here are some of the NHT projects that will be ready soon. Industry Cove in Hanover, Perth Estate in Manchester, Money Musk in Clarendon, Silverson Estate Phase 2 in St. Catherine, and Ruthven Towers in Kingston and St. Andrew. For further information on NHT products, be sure to visit nht.gov.jm or your local parish office. Contact customer care, we care at nht.gov.jm or call 876-929-6500 Your housing dream might just be a call away.
Marcus Garvey once said, "A people without the knowledge of their history, origin and culture is like a tree without roots." Let us celebrate this emancipation and independence period by honoring our national heroes. Up next, we'll look at the journey at Jamaica's first national hero and activist, Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Marcus Garvey words come to pass.
On August 17, 1887, in the quiet town of St. Anne's Bay, 50 years after emancipation, the son of a Maroon was born, one who refused to accept the injustices he observed around him as he grew up. While attending school, he developed a healthy appetite for reading, fed by his small library at home. Unable to attend high school because of financial difficulties, Garvey at age 14 became an apprentice printer for his godfather, Mr. Burroughs. 2 years later, he joined the staff of P.A. Benjamin in Kingston as a printer and quickly became a foreman. But after having joined a workers' strike at the plant, he was relieved of his job. After a brief stint at the government's printing office, he started his own paper, The Watchman. It folded because of poor financing.
Marcus Garvey words come to pass.
At an early age, Garvey began championing the cause of black redemption, leading the way for the universal freedom of the black diaspora. He became actively involved in politics, cultural organization, and the trade union movement, and developed a passion for journalism, printing, and publishing. At the age of 20, Garvey made a life-changing commitment.
I ask myself, where is the black man's government? Where is his king and his kingdom? Where is his president, his country, and ambassadors, his army, his men of big affairs?
Garvey could not find the answer, and so took on the task of helping blacks at home and abroad to create their own nation. In 1910, he joined his uncle in Costa Rica and traveled extensively throughout South and Central America, where he observed and was deeply touched by the poor conditions in which West Indian workers lived. Later, he traveled to England and continued his studies in journalism. While there, he consolidated the thoughts and philosophy that he would use to call the Negroes of the world to action. At the age of 27, 5 days after he returned from England, Marcus Mosiah Garvey founded the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities Imperial League. The focus of the organization was to unite all the black peoples of the world and to establish a country and government that was absolutely and uniquely their own. Garvey's movement ran into trouble with the local authorities and was rejected by the Jamaican people. Undaunted, he traveled to the United States. After visiting several states, he settled in New York. From there, Garvey established several branches of the UNIA across the country, and by 1920, the movement registered over 4 million members. At its peak, the UNIA had over 11 million registered members in 859 branches in over 30 countries. On June 27, 1919, the economic arm of Garvey's liberation movement was incorporated, the Black Star Line. This enterprise was meant to create jobs and business opportunities for millions of blacks worldwide. The business did well in the first year, but ran into financial difficulties soon afterwards. Garvey, his movement and his philosophy ran into problems with the United States authorities. He was jailed and deported to Jamaica. Garvey returned to Jamaica to a tumultuous welcome by a large and enthusiastic crowd. He wasted no time in organizing a political movement. He founded the People's Political Party in 1929, the first modern political party in Jamaica. Perhaps Garvey's most outstanding contribution in the quest for the universal emancipation of the black race was his lifelong, unrelenting efforts to unite and uplift the black race through a program of self-reliance and education. The thoughts and ideas of Marcus Garvey evolved into a social, political, spiritual, and economic blueprint for the successful development of a black nation. He advocated Africa for the Africans. He encouraged blacks to be proud of themselves and of their history, and for them to be self-reliant and strong. In shaping the political destiny of the black nation, the Declaration of the Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World, adopted at the First International Convention of Negro Peoples held during the month of August 1920 in New York, was a radical document. As a legal instrument, it ranked alongside the Magna Carta and the United States Constitution in that it affirmed and demanded redress for the injustices heaped upon a despised and rejected people by the entire world. The convention was attended by over 25,000 members and delegates from all over the world and demonstrated the power and reach of Garvey's movement. But most of all, it signaled the growing solidarity of the Negro peoples of the world. Garvey called for the emancipation of the mind at the 6th Negro Convention in 1929, held at Edelweiss Park in Kingston. He declared then that after the physical emancipation of slaves, the UNIA should create a second emancipation, an emancipation of the minds and thoughts of the 400 million Negroes of the world. Marcus Mosiah Garvey was not able to totally emancipate his people from their social, economic, and political bonds in his lifetime, but he certainly planted the seeds of black liberation and redemption across the globe, and the world has not been the same since.
Marcus Garvey words come to pass.
It is indigenous to Jamaica. It is spectacular within its species. It is a doctor, but not just any doctor. It is no other than Jamaica's national bird, the doctor bird, most commonly called the hummingbird or scissor-tail hummingbird. Sit back as we dive into the history of the hummingbird.
Look, do you see it? Can you tell which bird this is?
There are over 300 species of hummingbirds in the world, and Jamaica has 4 types. Our national bird, the doctor bird, is one of those 4, and it's endemic to the island. That means it's only found right here in Jamaica.
According to sources at the Institute of Jamaica, in 1962, a committee was established to consider the recommendations for the national emblems of the country. It was at that level that the red-billed streamer-tailed hummingbird, or doctor bird, was chosen to be Jamaica's national bird.
We actually have two species of streamer-tails. One is the red-billed streamer-tail, one is the black-billed streamer-tail. The red-billed streamer-tail and the black-billed streamer-tail is considered by some authorities as two separate species. Here in Jamaica, we still consider them to be two species.
The red-billed streamer-tail can be found across most of the island except the eastern tip, where you'll find the black-billed streamer-tail. Hummingbirds' nests are made from small leafy materials woven together with cobwebs. There are about 2 eggs per clutch or grouping, usually one male and one female.
Hummingbirds are actually sexually dimorphic. In other words, there are two different forms for male and females. The male is actually a lot more flashy.
Jamaicans call the red-billed streamer-tail the doctor bird because of the appearance of the male, with its black crest and 2 iconic tail feathers, resembling the top hat and coat tails of doctors in the past. The male doctor bird also has shimmering green feathers on the chest and back, and a bright red bill with a black tip. The female looks very different because she has a short tail, white chest feathers, and slightly green feathers on the back. The female's bill is also dark brown with red at the base.
You can actually find males without a tail, and there are several reasons for this. One, it could be a young male, right? Born earlier this year, for example, it's going to take a while before those tail feathers actually grow in. And sometimes you'll actually see some with very short tail, which means it's growing in. Another reason they might lack a tail is that they might have molted it, that is, they change their feathers. After the feathers get worn out, they actually drop them and a new set of feathers actually grows in. Sometimes you'll find a male with one tail feather, it lost it for one reason or the other, you know, it broke off, they could be fighting with each other and actually lost a tail feather. Hummingbirds, for their size, I mean, they're very tiny birds, but they're probably one of the most aggressive groups of birds in the entire world. The reason for this aggressive behavior is because of food scarcity. They have a group of flowers which they'll visit throughout the day because it takes some time for the nectar to replenish. Sometimes about half an hour, sometimes about an hour or longer. So what they do, they'll feed along a particular route, taking different flowers as they go along. And so once they finish feeding, they'll defend that area until it replenishes.
Hummingbirds flap their wings in a figure-8 motion, allowing them to change direction quickly as well as hover. But they are constantly burning so much energy that they must spend all day looking for food, only taking short rests in the shade.
Hummingbirds are considered nectar feeders, and there was a time when we believed these birds fed only on nectar from flowers. But in more recent times, we realize that they do actually take insects very occasionally, and we suspect it's really just to get some supplemental protein. In terms of the trees and the flowers that the hummingbirds feed on, I would like to highlight that the national tree, the blue maho, is actually one of the favorite flowers of the doctor bird.
You can spot the doctor bird at many of our public gardens across the island. For example, right here at the Blue and John Crow Mountains National Park.
A United Nations educational, scientific and cultural organization, UNESCO World Heritage Site. Look at that color, shimmering emerald green, and those 2 long tails. Our national bird is certainly a sight to behold.
And that's it for today's show. Be sure to join us on all the social media platforms and our website at jis.gov.jm as we are honoring our national heroes all week long. Let us reflect on our rich history, culture, and our journey as a nation this emancipation and independence period. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Good evening.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.